3 was tell me more about your journey and how you came to know Jesus and what he saved you from. So this is where like I want you to go in depth with your testimony for those
Okay.
who are listening, because I know it's going to be mind-blowing. So tell me about that, because you said you moved to New York, right, when you were 11, 12,
Yeah.
and then from there,
You want me to
so
start from there and go forward?
yeah, until like when you got saved, pretty much, I
Oh,
believe.
until I got
That's what
saved?
you want, or whatever you want to do. It's entirely up to you.
Okay. Well, if I go too far past your next question, just stop me.
Okay.
So, uh, as I said, at age of 12, we moved to New York. Culture
Mhm.
shock, had no idea what I was getting into, but liked it because I was around so many attractive boys and
Mhm.
so many mature girls that I was like, oh, I can do this. So as soon as we got there, I mean, within a couple of months, I was, starting to hang out, starting to, be rebellious, not listening,
Mhm.
wanting to, skip school and just all of that at the age of 12.
Yeah.
So later on, I mean, within the last 3 years, I've asked my mom, tell me about what happened. Let me turn that off. I asked my mom, tell me what, because I don't have a very good memory when it comes to certain things. Like I can remember a lot, but then there's details that I just don't recall.
Right.
So of course my mom, would know like what was going on. So come to find out, she said to me when I was 12, I got so out of control, so rebellious that as a mom, she didn't know what to do with me. She didn't know how to control me. She didn't know how to pull me back into being, I've before that, I was a decent kid, outside of these issues that I was having, the
Right.
one-offs, but I was never this bad or this rebellious.
Mhm.
So she said the only thing she knew to do was to take me to church. And it's funny looking back on it because, we just started going to church out of the blue and I liked it. I mean, I was
Mhm.
like, oh, this is fun. I'm around people, we're singing, I'm seeing people filled with the Holy Spirit. They're running and dancing. And,
Right.
I got on the usher board and I sang in the choir and I got saved at 12. So the sad thing about how the enemy works, he's not all knowing. We know that he can't read our
Mhm.
thoughts, but because I feel like the same way that we have angels assigned to us, I feel like there's a
Yeah.
possibility that there's a demon assigned to us as well
Ooh,
that kind of watches our moves to be able
I
to
just got chills.
yeah, yes, that's a word,
I
to
know.
intersect what God is trying to do, because in the book of Daniel,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
Daniel had prayed, the angel got held up by the prince of Persia and had to literally fight, the principality to get to Daniel to deliver him the message, to answer his prayer. So I
Right.
really feel like at some point, and let me rewind because there was a point I forgot. When I was maybe 8 or 9, my god sister's mom got her a Ouija board.
Mm.
Don't ask me why you would buy a child. First of all,
Right.
why were they even advertising it as something that, well, we know why, because it's the world we live in. But it's
Yeah.
like, well, why would you think that's a good idea to buy your child a Ouija board?
Right.
So as a child, you don't know any better. We get the Ouija board out, we're playing with it. And one night it started to move. We would ask it
Oh,
questions and it started to move. It terrified us, as it should have. We put it away. And literally, sis, when I would go to her house, I would not go in her room alone because I knew that Ouija board was in the closet.
oh yeah.
So I don't know if that impacted, some of the future. I don't know if I invited, something in, an entity in
Hmm.
by playing with the Ouija board, but we as believers know that that's a strong possibility.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because when I was 12, I got saved, and I mean, it was very quickly, I had a conversation with the devil. Looking back, I don't know if it was the devil or if it was a
Hmm.
demon, but the
Right.
conversation was basically, you're 12. You're basically at an age where you can make any decision that you want. And in making those decisions, you face the ultimate consequence. Nobody else, not your mom, not your friends, not your family, you do. And me having that conversation with the enemy set me up for destruction. But as we know, God will take what's bad and use it for, for good. So
Amen.
had that conversation, and literally I got more rebellious, skipping school. I started having, sex at the age of 12, dating older men, older boys. Age 14, I started smoking marijuana, side of the school at lunch. Friend is like, I got some weed. And I'm like, weed? I don't know what that is, but, let me try.
Right.
I smoked my first joint, and it was just like,
Life-changing.
I really enjoy this. And I had already been drinking, Mad Dog 2020 and Irish Rose and beer, like old school stuff.
I know what you're talking about.
I know, like the cheap stuff. I wasn't top shelf at all. I didn't even know what top shelf was. It was what I could get from the grocery store or the corner store.
Yes.
And they wouldn't ID me because I've always looked older.
Right.
So just the level of rebellion and the level of addiction to sex caused me great harm, because I didn't, and let me say this is, I was going to church every Sunday and Friday night for choir rehearsal and Sundays for church, on the usher board, singing in the choir, praising the Lord. But I don't remember anybody sitting me down and saying, this is what being saved looks like. This is what salvation is. This is what he saved you from, and this is what he saved you to. This is how you grow with him and walk with him. I don't recall anybody doing that. And if they did, I was so rebellious and in my sin and loving my sin that I probably was too hardened to even hear that that's what I was supposed to be doing.
Right.
So having 1 foot in the church, 2 feet in the street really saved my life. Because I gave my life to Christ at the age of 12, even though looking back, I wasn't saved. I don't know, my mom said that I got saved. It was like a revival at church, and I was crying, and I went up. She actually told me that she told me to go up there. And I just found this out like 3 weeks ago. And I'm like, you told me to go up there? She was like, yeah, because I knew that you needed Jesus. And I'm like, you can't force somebody into salvation. Like, that's not how it works. But she was like, I didn't know what else to do. So yeah, I told you to go up there. So hearing that made me realize, okay, yeah, I definitely wasn't a Christian. I wasn't saved. I just was a girl who went to church, who knew about, God. I knew there was a God. I knew that Jesus was his son, but never fully understanding like what that means. What does that mean for me in my life and everything that I have going on, and how he can, forgive me of my sins, and he can give me the power to be able to battle my sins. I didn't understand that. So teenage years, ridiculous. No true moral compass. If I wanted to do it, I was going to do it.
Right.
If I didn't want to go to school, I wouldn't go to school. If I wanted to drink in the park late at night, I'm going to drink in the park late at night. Cursing, just not being what a teenager is supposed to be. Like, everybody says, oh, you were a teenager, teenagers rebel. Not all teenagers rebel. Not all teenagers get into drugs and drinking and smoking and fornication. Like, that's not necessarily normal. So for me, it was like, I couldn't wait to get to an age where I didn't have to go to church. It was like, I enjoy this, but when I'm out of my mom's house, I'm probably not going to go to church. I'm just not, so being rebellious and loving my sin as much as I did, I would put myself in situations where bad things could happen. You know what I mean?
So I know.
Yeah, you end up somewhere that you have no business being. And, I've been raped twice because I was in places, not because I was in those places, because of the decision that, my rapist made violate me, but it's like, if you're drinking, and we were talking about, drinking earlier in our Discord,
Yeah.
but it's like, if you're drinking, your level of tolerance is completely down. Not tolerance, but your
Yes.
inhibitions. It's like,
Right.
I'm drunk, I'm high. I don't really care, about what I'm supposed to be doing or what I'm not
Right.
supposed to be doing. So
Right.
kept drinking, kept smoking. I was date raped at the age of 15 and the age
Wow.
of 17.
Wow.
Both by people that I kind of knew, but we weren't in relationships. It was just like, I'm here, you're here, but I said no. Like, and if I say
Yeah.
no, I don't care. I used to be one of those girls, how you want to go a certain, you want to go far enough. And then if I don't want to go further, I just don't want to go further. And that's
Exactly.
basically
Yeah.
what it was. It's still a hard no, but the no wasn't accepted as, okay, that's not really what you mean. And it's like, no. And it was forceful. But forgiveness is everything, and I know that I can't expect the Lord to forgive me if I can't forgive others. Because think about, all the filthy stuff that I've done in my life, and he still forgives me,
Exactly. And
um
that's hard to do.
yes, it's the
So
hardest thing
hard.
is to forgive yourself. I mean, he's forgiven
Mhm.
you and you're like, I just can't forgive myself, but I'm working on it. I really am.
Right.
So graduated from high school, ended up having to go to summer school because I had skipped so many of my classes that I couldn't walk. I couldn't graduate.
Yeah,
Get to summer.
girl, I know.
I know. It's like,
I'm the
I,
same
I,
way.
I almost made it, but they were like, no, ma'am, you have to go to summer school. Get to summer school, and my teacher is the same teacher whose class I flunked. So
Oh wow.
he pulls me to the side and he's like, look, I know that you're capable of more. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, Mr.
Oh.
And his name was Mr. Swartz. Like, I'll never forget certain names, you just don't forget.
Right,
And I was like,
right.
okay, whatever, Mr. Swartz. And he was like, no, I'm telling you, if you give this summer school class 100%, I'm guaranteed that you'll pass. So I ended up giving it 85, 90%. And I ended up graduating, getting my diploma.
Awesome.
So from there, I ended up getting into college with the horrible, horrible grades that I had because I skipped from like 9th to 12th. I was
Yeah.
there maybe 50%.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we tried to find a school, me and my mom, that would accept me. I was always an excellent writer. So
Mhm.
we were trying to find schools that were more accepting of your application essay than they were of grades. So
Mhm.
we found the Art Institute of Atlanta. I've been a photographer since I was like 7 or 8. So going to an artistic school was just perfect.
Right.
Ended up getting accepted, and none of my behavior changed. So
Mhm.
all of this fornication, all of this drinking and drugs came right to college with me. And I went to
Yep.
college in Atlanta in, the late 90s. So it was like, I didn't go to school in high school because I was drinking, smoking, sleeping around. Now I'm in college away from home with no parent to kind of tell me what I can and can't do. So I just got more out of control.
Right.
Ended up flunking out of college within the first semester.
Mhm.
Didn't didn't even make it. Didn't even make it a year. I mean, first semester, came home in December for Christmas break, and I'm like, I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna go back, and I'm
Right.
gonna give it all I got. And I got that I don't know. I think maybe a pink slip, where they were like, no, ma'am, you're not welcome back. You can come and get your stuff and
Oh
try again.
wow.
Try again at another date. So I went and picked my stuff up and ended up moving back to New York. Like, at that age, I was, 19, 20. I didn't have any direction. It was like,
Right.
okay, I went to college, which could have been an amazing experience. But because I had so much sin that I was carrying and that I truly enjoyed, it didn't cross my mind. Well, what's my purpose? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? So I kind of just traveled between family members for about 2 years, working, save up money, move to the next family's, house. And when I
Right.
was about 19 or 20, I ended up seeing a commercial for Job Corps. And
Mhm.
I was like, they give you someplace to live, you get food. It's in Kentucky, I mean, I've never been
Right.
to Kentucky. And I'm like, what else am I doing with my life? Why not?
Right.
So ended up going to Job Corps, and once again, all of that baggage and all of that sin just followed me. So, you know, you
Yep.
would think, oh, this is a campus, you can't drink, you can't smoke. They have drugs and alcohol in prison. So you can most certainly do it anywhere, because if there's a desire, there's a way to get things. So
Yep.
still drinking, still smoking, still dating, still sleeping around. Everything that I had been doing since the age of 12 just continued. So I ended up meeting a guy there. We began a relationship, and it was pretty serious. And we ended up leaving Job Corps. He was from Atlanta, and we ended up moving here to Atlanta, and it didn't work out because he was, just a serial cheater. And I'm like, okay, I can deal with a lot of things, but like, you're just blatantly cheating on me. Like, this is not right. So we broke
Right.
up. I moved back to North Carolina with my mom, and she gave me enough money to move back to Atlanta to get back on my feet, because for some reason I just really had a desire to be here. And now looking back on it, I think that that desire was because all of the sins that I enjoyed, I could feed here. Like,
Yeah.
you want to go out and party? Okay, you can go out 7 nights a week. Oh, you like men? Oh, you have a whole city of men.
Right.
So she gave me this money, and instead of me taking the money to move back here, I take the money and move my ex-boyfriend and his brother to North Carolina. Just stupid decisions when you just don't know.
Right.
So he ended up becoming abusive, physically abusive. I had to call the police. He had to go to jail. Then he had to do anger management. And we ended up parting ways. So from there, jumping ahead a little bit, me and my best friend ended up saving up enough money to move back to Atlanta. So we were like, I think maybe $3,000 should be enough to get us back there and get us on our feet. So
Right.
we saved money, got back here, and lived together for about 4 years. I lived in hotels when I first moved back to Atlanta in 2000. Another thing that I forgot to say, one of my enjoyable sins was stealing.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I had been arrested probably 3 or 4 times. I got arrested at the age of 7 or 8 for stealing from a store.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, we were like, me and Jessica. I wish I could find Jessica to see how she's doing. But
Yeah.
we would go to the store with the book bag, steal magazines, pens, pencils, take it back to her house, dump it on the bed. And then from there, we go back. So it was like book bag, stealing back. And like the fourth time, security was like, I need you two little girls to come in the back. And we were like, oh crap, I think we got
Right.
caught. So they called my mom, and she was like, put her in jail. And they literally put me in a cell at like 7. And my mom, I can clearly remember her coming in, and you know how they have the little window that you can
Yeah.
look in. And I saw I saw my mom looking in, and I'm in there like petrified, because remind you,
Right.
I'm 7. And she was like,
Exactly.
that you shouldn't have been at the store stealing. And I'm like, mommy, I won't do it again. So after about an hour, they let me out of this cell, and I just threw my teen. And it wasn't even the fact that I didn't have the money.
Right.
I would go to the mall on the weekends and have a pocket
Right.
full of, enough money to get whatever I wanted. But it was the joy of getting something without paying for it.
The thrill.
The thrill of, like, I
Yeah.
still have my money, but I also have, makeup and lingerie, just stupid stuff,
Yeah, exactly.
that I got arrested right before we moved to Atlanta, and I thought it was going to stop me from moving, but thankfully, it all worked out. I just got like probation or something and had to pay the
Okay.
restitution.
Yeah.
So we moved here. We lived in hotels for the first 2 years because we were just, we're in our early 20s. We don't really need a whole bunch of responsibility, and
Right.
it was cost effective. So partied, drinking, smoking, dudes, and more dudes. I mean, like, I don't know where the spirit of sexuality came from, and you know about this Jezebel spirit.
Yes.
And I really think at some point in time, that is who attached itself to me, because it was like it was no moral compass, you know, and I have
Right.
diaries from, you know, over the years, because I've always been a documenter. I like, you know, to
Yeah.
document my life. And I'll look back, I'll just turn to a random page. And it's like I was having all this fun, but on the same page, it was like I'm lonely, you know,
Mhm.
I don't feel like I have anything. But then the next page is like, well, you know, we went out and we did this and I had so and so over. But then the next page is like, I don't know what to do with my life. And there's God.
Yeah.
Thank you, Father. There is God all throughout my diary. And it surprises me, you know, looking back on it, you know, within 20 years of material, it's
Yeah.
like I don't remember trusting God. You know, like I want God to do this and you know, I'm praying for this. I don't
Right.
remember I don't remember doing that, you know. So
Right.
because like I said, you know, marijuana will take your brain cells and
Mhm.
you won't remember. It's like little gaps. It's like,
Yes.
okay, I remember being there, but I don't remember what happened. That kind of memory loss.
Right.
So so 20s, moved here. And if you have any questions of what I've said so far, you can stop me if you want, because you know I'm a
Okay.
talker, sis. So I, you know,
No, I know. Okay.
I,
Well, I
I
did have I do have questions, but the one question to you that's at my forefront of my mind
mhm.
is, did you forgive your rapist?
Mm. I have really just within the last few years when I came to know Christ, because it's like
Okay.
if I don't forgive
Yeah.
them, he's not going to forgive me. And
Okay.
I know the role that I played, and not a role in, you know, being violated, but just being in a place and being a tease is not cool, because things
Right.
happen. And, you know, just because you can slow yourself down and stop yourself, it doesn't mean that, you know, the other person is going to be able to do so.
Right.
So I
That
have
is
forgiven.
true.
I 110% forgiven.
Okay. Yeah. And
Yeah.
no matter like how much you tease too, like I also feel like there's a responsibility as well, like with the men, like if you're
Hmm.
man enough to be like, okay, she said no, this is it. Like, no, right? Like
That's
there
it.
are some men like that out there, but for the rest, like I don't know, but I'm sorry that happened to you. And I'm glad you
Thank
found
you.
forgiveness in that because it's not easy to do in any
No.
means, you know, and I'm glad Jesus gave you that healing as well because that can, like, if it's not properly taken care of, it can fester into trauma as
Oh
well.
yeah.
Like, you know, we've talked about this so many times.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful that you got healing and that you forgave. So that was my biggest one too. Like, and another thing I'll add to that is when I used to party too, and I don't know if I mentioned this in my testimony as well, but I was at one of my good friends' house one day
Hmm.
and I was very drunk. I was like three sheets to the wind, and all I wanted to do was sleep. You know, we were playing beer pong, we were just drinking, taking shots. Like it was a big party. I was like, I just want to sleep, right?
Hmm.
And my friend's like, you can go in the back room. And in Florida, because I live in Florida, y'all, we have like an add-on room. We call it like some Floridians call it like the Florida room, you
Hmm.
know, like an
I
additional
didn't know
add-on to
that.
the houses. Yeah, like it's like an additional add-on to the houses. I don't know. My parents always called it the Florida room. So my friend had one of these rooms, like an add-on room, right? And I went to go sleep on this mattress, and there was curtains and everything. It was glass sliding doors, so like you know,
Hmm.
there was nothing really, and there was a door leading outside to the backyard, right? So I just like you know went to bed, whatever. I woke up with my shorts undone, my bra was unhooked, and my friend was screaming at whoever was on the bed with me because I was asleep, like I didn't know, you know.
Right.
And she screamed bloody murder. She's like, "What are you doing?" And like when I looked down, like I noticed my pants were, I was like, my pants were not unbuttoned. Like I didn't unbutton my pants or my bra was like, what is going on? And then I like darted out. Like I didn't even see sis, like who was in the room with me
Mm.
or what. But like it just goes to show you though, like most sexual assault cases, you know, and I'm not saying I got raped or anything like that or
Right.
sexually assaulted because I'm pretty sure that she stopped whatever was going on.
Thank God.
Um, but yeah, praise the Lord too. Like it was rough. And 9 times out of 10, I want to say, I don't know the exact statistics, but I'll like give that to you later. I'll research it.
Yeah.
But it's it's people that you know, mostly,
Hmm.
you know, that's how it is. It's that, you know, you think you know a person and you trust them 100%, but in reality, it's like, how are you going to do this to me? Like, I know that I was stupid enough to put myself in that position, you know,
Mhm.
by drinking, by doing the drugs or whatever, you know, but at the same time, it's like, what kind of person would take advantage of a woman, or you know, like vice versa, when you can't, like, even when you're sleeping and you're like not even there coherently, you know what I mean? Like, you're
Right.
not coherent when you can't say no, when it bothers me to no end, and you know that.
Yeah.
So
And I mean,
but
it happens so often, and so many people, even with me, I didn't tell my mom until 3 years ago about
oh
either
wow.
either about either one of the rapes. And I should have kept it to myself because it broke her heart that, for one, I had to go through that, and two, that I had to go through it alone. Because
Yeah.
me and my mom have always been really, really close.
Right,
And
right.
another thing that I want to say, going backwards, when I was 15, my mom found out I was smoking weed.
Hmm.
And at that point, she was just like, I don't want you to smoke at all, but obviously you've been smoking for what, 2 years now? She said, just make me a promise. And I'm like, okay, what's the promise? Make me a promise that marijuana will not be a stepping stone to other
Hmm.
drugs.
Yep.
This won't be the starter drug, and then you end up, full blown addicted to something else. And
Yep.
I made her that promise. And by the grace of God, making that promise kept me on a path that was still destructive, but I never jumped from marijuana to something harder.
Hmm.
Now, because I put myself in lots of situations with a lot of guys that I didn't know, I've had weed laced with things, so I've
Yeah.
had weed, laced with cocaine, angel
Yeah.
dust, but I've never ventured off into anything else. And that's nothing but me making that promise, and really, I guess, something deep inside of me making sure that I kept that promise. Because, sis, had it been up to me, I probably would have been snorting coke. I
Hmm.
probably would have been popping pills. I would have, tried crack, heroin,
Yep.
meth. I just would have been like, well, I mean, I'm here. It's here. Why not? And I know that's
Right.
part of your testimony.